take these next few seconds and worship, something happens.
When we call you, Jesus, Jesus,
Anybody ever called on it?
Jesus.
Has he ever responded to anybody? Something happened.
Something happened.
Yes, God. When I call,
When I call you, when I call you, when I call you, something happens. When I call you,
this is the air I breathe.
when I call you,
Yes, God.
when I call you, something happens. When I call you, when I call,
Come on, saints. Somebody's breakthroughs right here. They just needed to get into the atmosphere.
something happens. When I call you, when I call you.
If I can testify for a moment, you hear Minister Tobias singing, something happens when I call. You see, just 48 hours ago, he had to call on Jesus for his grandma. And because the saints began to call on he who's able. Jesus, take over. Yes, God. Praise on our lips, worship in our hearts, that you will allow us to come in this sanctuary and worship with like-minded believers. Father, as we canvass the sanctuary, we can see that you've been good to everybody in the building. Thank you for my neighbor. Thank you for the person in front of me and behind me. Thank you for the ones who are on my side. I pray that you will continue to anoint them afresh from the crown of their heads to the very soles of their feet. God, I pray that you will continue to direct their paths and order their steps. I thank you, Father, that they will not think small, but they will think with the mind of Christ. Thank you that they understand that the impossible is possible with you. God, any that may be battling illness, God, we thank you right now for being Jehovah Rapha, for you are the God who heals. We thank you right now for being our provider, for being our sustainer. We thank you for being our peace, for being more than enough. God, we give you glory, because on the highway this morning, God, you could have allowed something to intervene and take us out, but you allowed us to get to the sanctuary. And God, because we are in the sanctuary, we won't sit down on you, God. We won't keep our mouths closed, God. As a matter of fact, we will continue to look to those hills from whence cometh our help, because we know, dear God, that all our help comes from you. We thank you right now for what you're going to do in this sanctuary today. We give you glory right now for what you're going to reveal in this sanctuary today. We lift up your name right now. You're worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy. Yes, God. We bless you. And we praise you in the only name that matters, to which every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Jesus, our Christ and our Lord. And the beloved of God said, amen, amen, amen. Come on, celebrate. Let's give God a good praise. Hallelujah. 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 Yeah. Just want to thank you. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm feeling a little crazy this morning. I just want to thank you forever. And Deb, I just want to thank you. We can ready to go to the next portion of our worship, but can we just sing one more? Can we just, y'all go help us?
Just wanna praise you forever and ever and ever for all you've done for me. Blessings and glory and honor, they all belong to you. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, blessed be God. Just wanna praise you forever and ever and ever for all you've done for me. Blessings and glory and honor, they all belong to you. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, blessed be.
Hallelujah. Amen, amen, amen. Amen. Somebody shout, God is good. He's an amazing Savior. He really is. Amen. God bless you. Thank you for worshiping with us this morning. Amen. You may rest in his presence. Amen. Next stand is on you. Amen. God bless you. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen. Yes, God. Amen. You know, there is obviously something very special about the presence of the Lord. How when the saints get together, we commence to worship and believe God. That right in the midst of praise and worship, that God will begin to heal. He'll begin to set free. He'll begin to deliver right in the midst of praise and worship. Perhaps that's why the Bible shares, let everything that has breath give God some praise. Amen, somebody. Amen. Can we give him one more hand clap? He's good. Amen. Amen. He is a good God, and he is worthy to be praised. Amen. Well, it's a little bit different day here at Celebration, but we're grateful for all God is going to do today. And we're excited about all he has in store. So just a few things I want to share with you, and then I'm going to get up out your way, and we're going to bring forth our presentation for today. So the first thing I want to share is, if you are a veteran, would you please stand? If you are a veteran. If you are a veteran, would you please stand? Come on, let's give it up for the veterans. Hallelujah. Amen, amen, amen. So we've got a few around. Amen. And so there is, we do have a token for our veterans. And so please, please, please make every effort to get those to our veterans before they depart today. Amen? Amen. Amen. And so yesterday we had the awesome task of sorts to celebrate my pops. And so we parted with him like it was 1999. That's what Prince said. So we thank God for his birthday his birthday was actually Thursday, and so they did it up for him, because Thursday night they had some my bad. Something you won't tell, right? So I'm just messing. Because we online, I don't want to scream in the community think they got, the pastor is drunk. So we had cake and ice cream. Cake and vanilla. What's the 3 flavor called? Metropolitan. What is it? Neapolitan. And so yeah, that. And so we had a good time. So actually so thankful for Pops and God keeping him. Amen. Amen. It's been a very busy week, but a very special week for me. I have been blessed that my father's birthday is one day and my bishop's birthday is the next. Isn't that something that the two men that speak directly into your life, God would allow them to be born a day apart? And so grateful to God for that. And so this week, y'all, I had the awesome opportunity to share in Richmond, Virginia, the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, who really oversees early childhood in the state of Virginia. So I had an opportunity to be there with its leader, our leader, Kathy Glazer. And I'm telling y'all, it was a tremendous moment, man. And so I'm going to let the secret out the bag. The reason I love going to the early childhood conferences is because they be talking about, how to handle infants and raise kids and to help them get their intelligence here to where it needs to be, so that when they enter into the school systems, that they are ready, that they're school ready. And so I be sitting there, I take all the notes about that. But boy, they give me a dynamite platform on what it takes to build a church. Amen. Leading, learning, loving. And so I take it all in, and I take all of it, and what I do is I slant it right toward the holy. And bring things and really begin to share them in and around the fellowship. And man, it's just some practices that really help us grow. And so, y'all, I had the opportunity this week. Let me tell y'all, man. I'm telling y'all. Are y'all listening? Man, I met this week Janice Underwood. Now, that name might not ring a bell to many people. All I can tell y'all is this. The night before, she was riding with a man named Ralph Northern. She is the person who does inclusion and the equity crises that we see transparent in our society. And and I hope y'all hear what I'm saying. I'm trying to teach you a networking principle right here. That so Kathy and I are talking, and I'm telling y'all, when you are faithful and where God and you're where God needs you to be, He can open some doors for you that would not have opened any other way. I am standing there. I had just told the people, I said, man, I have got to get Ms. Underwood information, because she can help our church and our community. I said, I got to get her information. Now, this lady walks with the governor, so I ain't like you can just walk up to her and say, can I have your phone number? I mean, that kind of, you got to kind of be a little bit more, tactful than that anyway. So I'm standing there talking to Kathy Glazer, and guess who walks up? So while I'm standing there, and then I'm so how I'm going to do this now, because I really need this lady to help our church. And Kathy says, do you know Anthony? She said, I don't believe I do. She said, well, you need to meet him. He's one of them. And then he's a big supporter of Smart Beginnings One. And then she said, well, it sounds like he needs my information. All right. And you try to keep you cool. You try to keep you cool like you used to stuff like that. Boy, I'm sitting there for a lot like, I'm going to the bathroom and dance. I'm going to the bathroom and dance. And so y'all, we've got some really interesting things that I'm going to be sharing with the church in the coming days with her, and met a brother who used to be Overcomers for the state of Virginia named Maurice Jones. And man, I'm glad I met him. And so he's started this piece all across the nation that are called financial operation centers. And what he's doing is he's coming into communities and teaching them how to attain wealth. So much so that the persons who are in the cohort, they will help them with wealth to accomplish wealth. He's from Tidewater. He said, well, Pastor, I haven't gotten to Tidewater yet, but we're coming this year. Here's my information. Yes, sir. Be talking to you next week. He says, well, and so I'm just telling y'all, I'm grateful to God for what he is doing. We got a reason to be excited. Amen. So we're looking, in the words of, I grew up in Morgans, Virginia, for those who may not be aware, we're looking forward to it. Amen, somebody. So we thank God for that. And so Bible study was Thursday night. I just want to put that out there. I just want to kind of put it out there. Bible study here is Thursday night. Then Thursday night. Now, I appreciate, the 30-some of y'all that showed up in Bible study. But it's a whole lot of you. Okay, so, but we didn't announce it last week was one excuse I heard. And so I want to make sure that I communicated that this week. Don't say it. Amen. And so I saw a couple of our partners. I saw a couple of our partners at the Love store. I go there and get my ice. It's free when you got your own cup. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but if you got your own cup, it's the crust. Yeah, the glory of God is on it. And so here's what's interesting, y'all. So I was over there going to get my ice, and I saw two beloved saints from the Celebration Church, Rose and Monlily. Rose was over there pumping gas. Her blood pressure high, she pumping gas. I said, I'm going to go over there and lay hands on her, because the last place I need her to fall out is up here on this concrete of love. So I went over there, and I was talking to her, and so I said, who in the truck with you, Mama? Oh. So y'all, Tim, I go to the truck. You know why I'm on Lily. I go to the truck, say, hey, Mom, we had Bible study, because she don't miss Bible study. See, we do Bible study sometimes old school. I said, read. And she said, and the Lord said. Ooh, Lily Bonds. And so here's what's interesting. And so when I went I opened the door, I said, Mother, why weren't you in Bible study last night? I've been in the Cape all week with my man. So I expeditiously shut the door. I didn't shut the door, I shut the door. Did not break a stride. Walked right back, got in my truck, started up, and sped out of this doggone car. I said, the mother of the Celebration Church just said to her pastor.
It's a little boys right here. I was helping Marie Sites. She asked me to stay with her. Every night she come down. Her children does not want her to live by herself at night, so that's where I was. He wanted to know what I was. Jesus.
Our business needs to know. I'm sorry, y'all. Celebration, y'all pray for us. Because stuff like this is normal for us, but y'all keep us in your prayers. Well, I'm okay, my spirit, but glad you're my cousin. I'm glad you're my cousin. That's what you got. I do karate. Amen. So, so I do want to let the visitors know that we believe in laughing in church. So y'all don't believe in laughing. I'm sorry today, but we believe in laughing. And so celebration, we love the Lord. I hope you've already seen that. We love the Lord. But so, that is one of the mothers of our church. And isn't it good when the mothers kind of lead laughter? Now, Lily Bonds, next time you bring the lady with you. Bring her on to church. We'll send the church band and get up to. Amen to that. So we love our mothers. And so here goes another one of our mothers right here, y'all. This one that'll fight, so I'm going to leave that right there. She told a new partner, the young lady just joined the church last Sunday. She come in, and the young lady was at 8 o'clock this morning. She come in with her stick. I bring this right here because I know I might have to use it on him. And then sits the stick on the seat and walk up here. Y'all, come on, let's pray. What is that, right? Mother Parker who does that. That's who does that. Mother Parker. Mother Parker. I'm talking about, and then, anyway. So now the visitors know two of our mothers. We got Mom Poole and Mom Carrie. Now, since I'm telling mother stories, I ain't gonna be long because we got a panel to come. Last week, I'm gonna talk to my friends. Last week we in church. They put Tobias sang with Tank last weekend.
Yes.
They put Tank up on the screen. And Mother Carrie, I thought she saw the Savior. I looked back quick to make sure I hadn't missed it, because I want to hear when the trumpet sounds. I want to make sure I hadn't missed it. I was like, oh my God. I mean, she was doing some little thing Tank Mother could do. Tank brought it out of her. So we just thank the Lord. Thank the Lord for our mothers. And then y'all, Mother Poole is one of I'm going to ask Mother Poole to stand. And y'all will know why when she stands. So I know the mother's going to wear me out in our meeting. Boy, that's the power of heaven and might, boy. So thank God for all of our mothers. Certainly to Mother Risper, too. I'm sure she's watching online. And so we thank God for that. All right. So it's a very busy week. I'm asking all the saints who are able on Wednesday night. We are headed to the Mount. Apostle Ivy Hilliard is going to be at our church on Wednesday night. And if you have never been to the Mount, then here's an extraordinary opportunity to travel to the Mount, kind of see how we operate there, those kind of things. It's an amazing church, and we're looking forward to a word from Granddad on Wednesday night. On Tuesday, we have, on Tuesday, y'all, I want to thank, let me commence by thanking our church, by thanking you. Because on Tuesday, see, you see those brothers, when you come in the parking lot, the parking lot greeters are there to help you park. And, some of you think they're just there to make you mad, but they're really there to help you, right? And on Tuesday, I'm just grateful to be able to have them travel with me to the village at Woods Edge. We host First Lady Pam Northam on Tuesday. And our parking lot ministry is going to take care of all the logistics for that moment. And so come on, can you help me celebrate our parking lot ministry? Man, that's big, isn't it? And so we're grateful to God for that. We're looking forward to that. And so that is, she's going to speak approximately 15 to 20 minutes. And one of the big initiatives that flow from our governor deals in and around early childhood education. And so we're looking forward to being with them and hosting them. And so God is good. Isn't that right, y'all? Amen. The final thing I want to share with you guys, I hope you get as excited about this as I am. On, let the church say November 26th.
November 26th.
Y'all just sound excited. Let's see if we can try to get November 26th.
November 26th.
On November 26th, we will be in Southampton Meadows. The reason we will be in Southampton Meadows from 1:30 to 3:30 is because on that day, we're partnering with Enviva and the Food Bank, and we will have a full meal to serve 200 people in Southampton Meadows.
Amen.
In God, good. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
Yes, God. And so we're looking forward to that, y'all. They're going to have a turkey, they'll have greens, they'll have onions, they'll have white cake mix, and there's something that I always forget, yams, I think. It's something I always forget, though. They're going to have all that, and we're going to have it packaged. And so they will just come up and we'll hand it to them, and they will be able to go and prepare it for Thanksgiving. Isn't God good, man? So we're looking forward to that. And we were there for 8 weeks serving, and I want to thank, again, each and every one of the volunteers for that. Bro Gilbert, you hear me? I hear you, sir. All right. And so we want to make sure that we serve well. So we want to get a task force together to go out there and to serve. Now, Enviva is located on Rose Valley Road, literally in Southampton County, Quasi-Franklin, right up the street. And Enviva is footing the entire bill to feed 200 people out there in Southampton Meadows. Amen. So we're glad to partner with them. And so we're looking forward to it. And so every fourth Tuesday, we're going to start being able to have a mobile pantry out there at Southampton Meadows, because we want to go and help our brothers and sisters. Isn't that right? Yeah. Amen. Come on, let's help our brothers and sisters out, man. That's what we're going to do. And we believe that that's what God has called us to do. Amen. And so we'll be able to send, believe it or not, if I am not mistaken, Riverdale sends 2 buses to Southampton Meadows.
Wow.
That's how many of our children out there are under the tutelage of Dr. Gwendolyn Shannon when they go to Riverdale. And so I'm telling you right now, so we're going to come alongside that. We're going to try to get the kids to her and her staff healthy and have some food so that they can teach them what they need so that they can get to the next level. Isn't that all right? Amen, somebody. So we're looking forward to that. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we teach kids with food in their belly. Many of them don't get food over the weekend. And so we want to begin to do something to offset that so that when they get to school, that helps them learn. Amen, somebody. So we're looking forward to that. Amen. All right. To my left is going to be Deacons Connie and Deacon Nikki. If you want to give with your credit card or debit card, they are ready, willing, and able to serve you. If you want to give online, you can go to givelify.com or you can go to our website at celebrateonline.com. Celebrate is CELBR8 online. And or you can come and sow your seed in one of these brown canisters that are located here at the altar, or you can do what you see a whole lot of people doing. Brother Gilbert just walks around and kind of retrieves envelopes and brings them to the altar. But it's time to give. It's time to meet budget at 214. Somebody shout, let's meet budget. Come on, saints, let's give about tithes and offerings. Hallelujah. Yesterday, Esther? 9? Celebrated your birthday yesterday, right? Yes. Yeah, y'all. Come on, y'all. Let's sing SJ happy birthday. You go ahead and lead somebody. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear SJ. Happy birthday to you. SJ was the guy last week or week before last. He was the one that did the celebration chat. And so he enjoys singing in the church. Isn't that good news, y'all? He's 9 years old and loves to sing in church. Amen. SJ all right with me. He was like, Pastor, what you getting ready to do? Amen. All right, y'all, so we're going to pray. Yes, God. Will you bow with us in a word of prayer? The Bible declares that God gives seed to the sower. Yes. The Bible also shares with us a story there in the Gospel according to Luke. That persons came around and Jesus was watching the offering, and persons gave, and then there was one lady who gave a mite. Jesus made the statement, very powerful one I should add. This lady right here has given so much. Even though in value it appeared to be so less. He teaches us there that when we give the way he ascribes or prescribes, that he's able to take that which we give and multiply it in ways that will springboard us into new territory. And so today you've sown seed into fertile ground. And I'm here to tell you that God is going to produce a harvest. I decree and declare that you will walk in prosperity. I also decree and declare that you understand that prosperity does not necessarily indicate all the time that that's financial. But it's good to have peace. It's great to have health. So I decree and declare that you prosper even as your soul prospers. So Father, we're grateful, we're honored, and we praise you for providing us these moments to sow into your kingdom. We thank you that you're enlarging our territory. We thank you for increasing our gifts. We thank you for having more than enough. We thank you for overflow. Overflow of love, overflow of peace, and overflow of compassion. And we give you all the glory for everything you're going to do. In Jesus' name, somebody shout amen. Amen. God bless you. Thank you so much for giving. Amen. All righty. So today, saints of God, we have our slate is a tad bit different. Normally on Sunday mornings, this is the time that I would stand up and begin to give a text and exegete that text, teach from that text as God has given me as lead pastor. Today, that is a shared duty. That's a shared duty today. And so worship as it pertains to proclamation is going to be a tad bit different today, but I believe that this is the proclamation that the church needs to hear. And so many times, God has blessed me to be able, because of the benevolence of the saints here at Celebration Church, to kind of interact and engage with many professions and professionals. And so today, the Lord just laid it on my spirit to have some of them come and allow you to hear some of the things that I hear weekly. I think now I'm probably at least weekly with probably most of them, and in some meeting somewhere, and so, but they have an expertise that I believe not only Celebration Church needs to hear, I believe the body of Christ needs to hear. And so I have clearly no idea what God's going to do in and around this. I just know that His hand's upon it, and that these are things that we need to bring and present to the body of Christ. And so there's a video that actually before the video, let me see. Yeah, we're gonna have a video. After the video, we're gonna have, like they said, old church, we're gonna have a selection. And as that selection commences, these young ladies will begin to mount the pulpit. And after this selection, but the selection actually comes from one of them. So Tobias, I don't know what she's gonna sing, but I know she can sing.
All right.
And if she needs some help today, I see to my right she got plenty.
Uh-oh.
She got both her twins with her, and her mother and her sister. And I'm telling you, I don't know if I ever seen. It's amazing. I'm like, okay, I'm eating this. I'm like, was that Vonda? Was that my mama? Just blew the horn into the burn. Right? You know, so we're gonna ask. Believe it or not, Vonda actually sang in our wedding in 1998. She did. And I've done a few weddings since that time and entering the pastorate now 15 years. And it is still to date, out of all the weddings that I have ever done, where I have seen the entire sanctuary rise and give a standing ovation. I haven't seen that since I was 1990. And she sang, I Believe in You and Me. I think that's the title, by Whitney Houston. And that day I would have put her with Whitney. Yes, sir. See, that's why y'all got to pray for us in celebration. Because we'll roll, we screaming. I'm sorry, y'all. We still holding. I promise you, y'all. And no, I ain't gonna sing. Look, see you over there trying to egg on our holiness in the sanctuary. And you're an elder in the Lord's church. So, go on to mine. Thing in my pinky toe too. Come on, let's do it, man. I believe. No, I'm just joking. But well, we got Vonda here. She ain't gonna do that. All right, so but that day, y'all, it was a standing ovation. She sang so masterfully and beautifully, and so it was a wonderful moment. She sang so beautiful, my mama was crying. I think Pop was too. But he done had them glasses set back in his eyes like that so long he could hide it. And so we're going to ask after this video if Vonda will come and what they said in the old church, render us an A selection. Is that right?
Yep.
Amen. So please turn your attention to the screens, after which she'll minister and our panel will approach the pulpit.
Hey, what's going on in Celebration Church? God bless you. You know I love you. I thank God for you. Listen, today is going to be a tad bit different than what we are accustomed to here at Celebration Church. But that's kind of how we do church, right? We do things a tad bit different, and we still make sure that Jesus is at the forefront of each and everything we do. And so today I have the opportunity to present to you 4 persons who God has escorted into my life that I think can be a benefit to the life of Celebration Church. And so this morning, we're going to have something a little bit different. We're going to have a panel discussion that Pastor will moderate. So I will moderate the discussion, but we're going to talk about some topics this morning that deal directly with persons where they are. Things like depression, a lack of self-confidence. We're going to talk about what does a detox unit at a hospital do? Why is it needed? Why is there someone who has to specialize in it to help people? We're going to talk about the Community Services Board. The Western Tidewater Community Services Board, it services us here locally, and so we have a representative here for that as well. And then we're going to talk about mental health, and I want you to understand that this is a big-time industry, and a lot of people are dealing with their mental health. We've got someone in the house today that's going to be able to help you with that. And then we have a clinician. We have a doctor in the house. I always call her a doctor, who's going to be able to help us in a plethora of ways, and I'm excited about what we are getting ready to encounter. So Celebration Church, would you please help me welcome Dr. Sonia Lee, Dr. Kawana Ward Hall, Miss Vonda Warren Lilly, and none other than the one you know, Miss Kristen Joyner. All right, y'all, let's get ready. Yes.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord, everybody. I'm going to sing one selection for you and get out of your way. Now, I will say, I don't sing like I used to sing, as much as I used to sing back in the 90s, but I am going to be obedient and sing one selection for you. I've learned how to live holy.
Yeah. All right now.
Woo.
Yeah. Hey.
I've learned how to live right.
Yes, right now. Yes, Lord.
I've learned how to suffer.
Yes, Lord God.
For if I suffer,
Yeah.
I'll gain eternal life.
All right to me.
I learned
Yes.
how to live holy.
Yes. Yes.
And I see Jesus. Amen. But I see the one who died for me. Trying to figure that. I don't know. I might have been crying that day. Fight back tears now. My God. Well, she said she don't do it much. Boy, I want to be gracious. That girl has oil on her voice. And here's what's amazing. You should have saw our peers while you were singing. Christian like this. Like, is that fun? Girl, what a gift to the body of Christ. Come on, celebrate. Let's thank God. Wow. Girl, the church was sitting there like, Pastor, she need to do a beat selection too. I heard it. I heard that all in the spirit. They were like, she need to do a beat. Girl, that was, all right, I'm just trying to get myself together. Lord have mercy. Amen. So, all these bosses right here. So this is how they answer. They ask questions. Okay.
I'm gonna explain it to him.
Okay.
All right now.
Yes, sir, Pastor. So media has a way, y'all, that you guys will be able to ask questions digitally, right, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Brother Green. And so you'll be able to type in, I'm sure, and your question will come to what we have here.
Yes, sir.
And so it'll be anonymous for you.
That's right.
And so that you'll be able to ask the panel questions. Amen. Oh, there's still some lingering. I'm trying my best to move on, but some lingering.
All right.
Yes, God. And Tobias keep doing
Yes.
it. No, he wrong. Yeah, I know that. He over there messed up here. Now, I'm going to tell you how you know when you're singing. When the sisters in Christ come out. They came out and lined that wall. I'm going to tell you right now. You ever heard them sing? All right, I might give them the same before you leave today. But I know when somebody's singing, they'll come out and line that wall right there, and all of them looking like they just get it. They're like, oh, do you hear that note? And so, yeah, girl, you did an amazing job. Let's give her another hand. We really could have took that right there and went a whole other direction, y'all. I'm telling y'all right now. So I don't want y'all to think I don't know that. We could have went another whole direction right there. This thing turned to a healing moment. Laying on of hands and all that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, that's what kind of, so maybe we'll kind of connect and do something. What y'all think celebration? Yes, sir.
Let the church say amen. Amen. Let the church say amen. Amen. All right. Now, if you have a smartphone, could you please pull out your smartphone? Go to the App Store. And if you could address your attention to the monitors. Now, we'd like for you to type in poll everywhere.
Poll everywhere.
P-O-L-L everywhere.
I hope folks went to the polls everywhere too.
All right. I want you to install this app.
It's safe.
Yes, it's safe. Now, once the app is installed, a screen should come up looking like this.
Boy, you got your stuff together.
Now, once the screen comes up, I want you to type in orange.
Your wife name?
Orange, green,
I tried to change it.
all lowercase, orange, green, 270. That again is orange, green, with the E on the end, 270.
Here's the top search result.
All right. That's it.
That should be it.
All right, so hopefully everybody's in. Orange, green, GREENE 270. All right, and so he'll be out here amongst you saints, so if you need him, just kind of get his attention. He can come to where you are. That way we can continue to advance forward. Amen? Amen. So, it is still, in my estimation, very proper to kind of center our discussion around Scripture. It is a Sunday morning, and persons come to church on Sunday morning to hear a sermon, and you are hearing a sermon today. It's just a non-traditional one. And so if you would turn with me to the Gospel according to Mark, chapter number 5. The Gospel according to Mark, chapter number 5, and they will have it displayed on the screens for you as well. Gospel according to Mark, chapter number 5. Our journey commences at verse number 3, and we shall travel to verse number 5. Gospel according to Mark, I think I told you right, yeah. Mark chapter 5. Journey commences at verse 3, and we shall travel to verse number 5. I want to kind of frame our discussion in and around this text, and you'll see why momentarily. All right, once we get the screen there. Okay, here we go. All right, I want you to hear the text, and it's on the screens for you if you need it that way. This man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with the chain. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrists and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night, he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. If you've been in church for any length of time, you have encountered this scripture. It is commonly referred to as the man. It's actually two men if you were to do the proper research of this particular text, and the other two gospels actually say it's two men. But Mark basically talks about one, and he has a particular reason why Mark in literature talks about only one, and I share that in my summary of everything we discussed. And but I thought that this, Tim, would be a good place, Andy, to kind of round our discussion. And the one word that leaps out that I pray you leave with today, I pray that you are impacted.
Yes.
Because what we're going to talk about today is not only something that we want you to get excited and emotional about on this side of the wall. We want you to be healthy on the other side of the wall. And we're going to talk about that today. And so we're going to talk about impact. And so as you can see, we have these four ladies who grace the stage, who grace the pulpit. Each of them have an expertise. And so when we talk about this man is in the burial caves. He's in the burial caves. So the first thing that we see is that he has a coffin-based theology. He's hanging out with dead people. I think one of the big issues that we currently face is if we're going to improve, we can't improve hanging around people who have the same addiction.
That's right. That's right.
Because neither of us are strong enough to help the other one quit. Now, if we have someone with expertise like still on this stage who's helping us in this effort, things change. But just hanging out together and going to the same places and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again will not do it. So we're going to talk about 4 S's. We'll give them to you real quick. 4 S's. They should be coming up on the screens. We're going to talk about 4 S's. Number 1 is going to be symptoms. Number 2 is going to be strategies. Number 3 is going to be support. And number 4 is going to be spirituality. And so, obviously, the ladies on the stage can help in all 4. I'll keep her around the last one, and we're going to see how God leads us in this moment. And so I really think I want to start with Dr. Lee. She's always the good kickoff, and she has so much information, and she'll be able to clearly share who she is and what she does. I want to thank her beautiful family for coming with her today. Come on, let's give them a great big hand. Amen. To Mama for coming with Dr. Hall. Come on, let's give Mama a great big hand. Amen. To everyone who traveled, to Mama and sister that came with Vonda today, let's thank God for them as well. Amen. To everyone who came with our panelists today. And so we want to kick off with Dr. Lee, and we'll attempt to moderate a discussion that hopefully people will be able to migrate in and around.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Lee. I am the Director of Behavioral Health at Southampton Memorial Hospital. My throat is hurting a little bit this morning, so bear with me, okay? Just by a show of hands, how many of you knew that there was a detox unit at Southampton Memorial Hospital? Okay, thank you. Not many. And I always start off with that question because, you know, in your community, you have to know what resources are available. So the detox unit has been open for about 18 months now. My nurse manager, Ms. Sharon Ricks, is here with me. You know, everybody say you got a right-hand man. This is my right-hand woman over here in this corner. And Sharon and I started the detox unit from scratch pretty much about 18 months ago, as far as getting the resources together to figure out what the need was in the community. Southampton County has one of the highest overdose rates for opioids in the state.
Can you repeat that?
Southampton County in Franklin has one of the highest overdose rates for opioids in the state.
Wow.
And when you think about it, it's not, this community itself, population-wise, is not huge. But to have one of the, when I say the highest, you're in the top 3, okay? I don't have my stats right here with me right now, so I can't quote numbers, but what I can do is provide you with those statistics. So, I'm an old Southern girl, I'm from Georgia, so y'all get blessed with this sweet accent this morning too, okay? All right? And I remember growing up in the 80s, so don't be trying to calculate my age, all right? But the early 80s, and it was during what we call the, it wasn't called an epidemic, it was the war on crack.
That's right.
It was the war on drugs, right? So crack and cocaine was what we saw in our communities. And I can remember going to school, and it was sold just like rock candy, like out the packs or whatever. And I had friends that they either was selling it or they were making it. Just real talk. And a lot of my friends and family were affected by this. They either had a parent that was on drugs, or they had someone that was incarcerated for selling drugs, okay? So now we're seeing that come back full circle. But now, everybody know New Jack City, that's like, Pookie, right? So I love to quote, talk about Pookie. Well, addicts don't look like Pookie anymore, right?
Wow. Wow.
That's right.
And Pastor, I'm gonna take this because I always wanted to say this. Look to your neighbor and say, you could be Pookie.
Wow.
Right?
That's right.
That's right.
Wow.
Because when we talk about the face of addiction, you know, it's pretty now. It's pretty ugly. All right? So what I'm saying is that how do you tell if someone's addicted? You know, I have a long definition, but I'm gonna spare y'all that. But I'm gonna tell you what addiction looks like. Addiction looks like, and when I say addiction, if you notice, I haven't said alcohol, I haven't said heroin, I haven't said benzos, because technically we all have some type of addiction, right? And I say that because my addiction, Kawana's getting ready to laugh. eyelashes. All right?
Oh, wow.
Now just think, I don't have them on today, Lord have mercy. I've been eyelash free for about 90 days. 90 days. But when I say that, just think about how everybody laughed, right? You pass judgment on me without even thinking about it, right? So imagine if I came to you and I said, hey, Vonda, I'm addicted to cocaine. Vonda, I'm addicted to Percocet. You know, would you laugh? You know? So what I'm getting at is that before you can help me and before you can send me in the right direction, what do you look like? What does it look like? What do you look for, you know, as family members? My grandma would say back in the 80s, if you really wanted to and you put your mind to it, you can stop doing that stuff. That's not true. I hate to say it, it's not true. It's a little different than mind over matter, right? Because what happens is, I'm getting ready to take you through the physical symptoms of this. When someone's addicted to opioids or heroin, their body starts to go through changes where you have to have it. Think about the clock, okay? 12 hours on the clock. So I've been doing heroin for 3 years, but today I'm gonna wake up and today is gonna be my last day of using, right? So it's 6 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I made it to 9 o'clock. Thank you, Jesus, thank you. I made it 3 hours of clean time, right? By 12 o'clock, noon, my body starts to talk to me and say, hey, every morning about 10 o'clock, we have a hit. Either I have some heroin or if I went on the street and I bought some Percocet, and believe it or not, heroin on the street is way cheaper than a Percocet. I can get some heroin for $5, I have to pay $20 for Percocet, okay?
Wow.
So it's 12 o'clock, but I told my family that this was gonna be my last day. 12:05, I can't take it no more. I'm using, right? And that's what the body goes through, because if I don't, I start to get the sweats, I start to get the shakes, I start to get irritated. I've never done heroin, but from what I can tell from my patients, it looks and feels like the flu 10 times over. And if you ever had the flu, you know what it feels like. But one thing I can tell you about heroin and the opioids, you may feel like you're gonna die, but you're not gonna die, okay? But from alcohol, you definitely can die, okay? So when individuals come to me for detox, what they're coming for, just what it says, detoxification. I have them for 3 to 7 days, and I'm able to give them medications to go against the drugs, and it helps to get it out their system, okay? But think about it, if I've been using drugs for 10, 15 years, what is 3 to 7 days gonna do for me, right? Not much. So on the flip side of that is what we do is we try to find them somewhere long-term to go, anywhere from 28 days. In some programs in North Carolina, I found people, programs for 2 years or more, okay? But what's missing in that whole scenario is the support, the family support. So the judgment piece there, as far as if you really wanted to, you could stop. Think about this. When you were young and someone asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, I don't ever recall meeting anyone saying, hey, I want to be an addict, all right? That's not in our DNA, and it's not in our format. So what my colleagues are gonna do, they're gonna kind of help you figure out where do you go for help, because that's the biggest thing. I can see the signs, and I know that, you know, this individual has a problem, but what resources in the community are there for me to say, hey, I need help, and I need help without judgment. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
I just want to add a couple things. I work in family practice. I've been in family practice for about 13 years now, and I don't see as many people who are addicted to opioids and things. They do exist, alcohol, cigarettes, things like that, but I do see people addicted to food. So like Dr. Lee mentioned, it's the same pathway. We're here to talk about depression and mood issues. What you're doing to your body is creating half of the issue. So when you eat that honey bun or you drink that soda, it's going through the same pathway as those Percocets. Okay, so it's releasing the same hormone dopamine that makes you feel good. If you smoke cigarettes, you smoke that cigarette, first cigarette you ever had, you're like, oh, this is great. And you're constantly looking to get that feeling again. Same thing with that donut. The first time you ever had sugar as a kid, so we've all forgotten because we're grown now. The first time you had that sugar as a kid, you're like, oh, this is great. I want more. And we carry it along as we get older, and we use these things to self-medicate, whether it's alcohol and cigarettes, but we use food. And unfortunately, food is what's killing us, and our culture is killing us because we haven't been taught how well to eat.
Wow.
So that's something that you can do as an individual is you have a responsibility to yourself to clean it up. You can come to me as a physician assistant or go to your doctor and say, I'm having issues with mood. First off, it's hard for people to identify that they have depression. People imagine depression sitting in the corner crying, doing a thing. Depression can manifest as irritability, not wanting to go out with your friends like you used to, very subtle things, maybe you're not performing as well on the job. Anxiety sometimes will mask depression. So, what's it, like 1 in 5 people have issues with mental health. I brought this up before. How many of y'all know a diabetic? How many know somebody who has hypertension? That many people have mental health issues. And they may not be debilitating, you might be high functioning and going to work and doing your thing, but ultimately on your inside and your spirit, it's not where it needs to be. So you have to think about people take care of their cars rather than they do their own body. If you stuck sand in your gas tank every day, how are you gonna expect your car to run right? So how do you expect eating, junk for breakfast, some Frosted Flakes with cow milk, and then maybe some honey bun a couple hours later, maybe some fried chicken a little bit later? That Southern food, that's what's killing us. So that's why I hope we can talk about more today.
Yes, sir. Amen.
So I'm Dr. Ward. Thank you for having me. I want to talk about what mental health looks like. So as Dr. Lee said, addiction doesn't look like cookie anymore. Well, neither does mental health. We think about depression. We think about the man who lives in the boneyard, the graveyard, that's cutting. That is a symptom of mental health. But also being overly excited, being overly withdrawn, being overly grandiose with our hair, with our makeup, with our outfits, that's also a symptom of mental health. So it doesn't always look like someone who's sad or cutting or suicidal. It could look like someone who went from very low to very high. It could look like someone who's attention seeking, that's overly sexual, that's overly talkative. It could also look like someone who's overly anxious or someone who's overly withdrawn. The most prevalent diagnosis is anxiety. Most people think of mental health and they think of depression, they think of suicide, they think of schizophrenia, but the most common diagnosis of mental health is anxiety. And anxiety comes from excessive worry, excessive fear, sometimes even lack of faith.
Wow.
Very prevalent. What can we do to support our loved ones? One of the things that's very simple, but often a lot of times overlooked, is being tolerant, being accepting. When our loved one comes to us and talks about, hey, I'm not feeling so well. Sometimes we say, well, you have this nice house, you have this nice car, you have X, Y, and Z. What do you have to be upset about? What do you have to be sad about? What do you have to be depressed or anxious about? So being willing to understand that everyone's experience is different. What may manifest in me as anxiety may not manifest in Vonda as anxiety. But be open and accepting and non-judgmental.
Yes.
So then the question is, where do I go when I start feeling these things? Where do I go? There are a variety of facilities that are located throughout the state of Virginia, but here in the city of Franklin, the Western Tidewater Community Services Board has an office that is on 2nd Avenue across from Hardee's, next door to Bronco Federal Credit Union. And there, we represent, again, the Community Services Board. We have a couple of locations, not just in Franklin. We have a couple of Suffolk offices. One is located in the Harborview area of Suffolk. One is located directly next door to OBC Hospital. We have one located in the Saratoga area of Suffolk, Virginia, and we have one on Godwin Boulevard. We also have a Smithfield office, and then we have the Franklin location. Every single Wednesday, we have what I call the emergency room for mental health. You can come in between 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. and receive a comprehensive service needs assessment. And there is where you will be assigned a clinician that will do the assessment to determine what exactly is going on with you. As Dr. Ward insinuated, as she indicated, you know, when you think of mental health, you automatically think of the bipolar, schizophrenia, depression, and things of that sort. But it can be something as small as adjustment disorder, something that have occurred to you recently that is causing a little difference in the way that you behave and the way that you're feeling, and you just want to know what is going on with me. It may be affecting the way that I work. It may be affecting the way that I communicate with my family and those types of things. Needless to say, we will provide a diagnosis for you that will give you some insight on what's going on with you, and from there we will then link you to the community resources that are deemed appropriate for your individualized need, because everything that we offer is not applicable to everyone, of course. So we have community-based services like mental health support services, which is not necessarily a clinical service, but it is a supportive service that will help adults ranging from the ages of 18 to 80 years old with activity daily living skills. Those people that may have a diagnosis that is prohibiting them from getting up and taking a bath or feeding themselves or being able to cook for themselves, go to the doctor, meet their appointments. We also have outpatient services that includes individual therapy, family therapy, medication management, where you can come into the physician every 3 months to get your medication. You will receive an initial psychiatric evaluation. We have substance abuse services as well. We have what we call the State Opioid Response Team, which coincides with the opioid epidemic in this area. They consist of you having a therapist, a case manager, which the case manager links you to other community resources that they feel are deemed necessary to meet your need. And they have peer specialists, people that look just like you, that have been through what you've been through, that can tell you how to get from point A to point B to sobriety. So we have a variety of things that we can offer you to get you to the road of healing. And again, you can come on Wednesdays between 9 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we can link you to other community resources that can give you what you need.
So the next portion is the strategies. I want you all to imagine this. Think about if you were walking around on a daily basis and you kept hearing voices, but it was only you, but these voices were coming from somewhere, right? So these voices are in your head or whatever, and people you love, you couldn't share this with them, because one thing in our community, when people talk about their mental health, they're crazy, right? They're a little touch. My grandma would say the brain is atom, atomic bomb, right? But we have all these labels, but you're hearing those voices. But as soon as I take that first drink, that second drink, that third drink, those voices stop, right? Right? So that's what we call self-medication. And you know, you go to your grandma. My grandma raised me, so y'all gonna hear a lot about my grandma, okay? But grandma would say, pray it away, right? But I'm here to tell you today is that you can have Jesus and a therapist.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You can have Jesus and a therapist.
Yes.
Because sometimes, I mean, Jesus has provided a platform for us to be up here, But sometimes you have to be on your medication. You wouldn't know that you needed medication because you hadn't gone to anyone. Just like Christian said, she's a physician assistant, a doctor, okay? I think of life in kind of like a triangle. You know, you gotta have some type of foundation. So I think of your spirituality, your physical health, and your mental health. That triangle can't be a triangle unless it has all three sides, right? Right? And then the point of that is that you're trying to achieve something. So you have to look at it from a holistic point of view as well. So where do you go to get that mental health? And what does it look like? I mean, I'm a therapist, and I'm gonna tell you, every good therapist has a therapist. I'm going to my mental health provider every other week. Sometimes I be want to switch chairs with her and be like, child, she needs just as much help I do. but the point is that I go because there's someone there that I can trust. I'm paying you, so I'm paying you to keep these secrets, right? Right? And sometimes you just need a place to just let it out.
That's right.
So I'm gonna let them take that point from there as far as strategies and stuff and what it looks like when you go to therapy, okay?
I want to touch on, it's kind of obvious when we know that we need substance abuse treatment. I think when it comes to mental health, it looks a little different. So how do you know when the depression is outside of your control, outside of when you need to stop praying about it and needing to do something more than prayer? As mental health therapists, how we assess that is it causes an impairment in your functioning. Does this anxiety cause me to have some changes in my behavior that don't allow me to be functioning at my highest level or at my best? So say, for instance, I'm so anxious where I can't parent my children, or it causes conflict in my relationship with my husband, or it doesn't allow me to go to work and perform the way that I should be or I'm expected to perform. That's how we know when we need support.
So I don't know if you use this analogy, I've heard it somewhere, where you have there's a gentleman out in the water, in the middle of the ocean, and he prayed to God, God, please come save me. I think I heard it from you, it's great. But it's perfect for this topic because, you know, he's expecting God in a certain way to help him. And he sent him 2 boats. And when he died, he went to heaven and said, God, where were you? He's like, dude, I sent you 2 boats. So it may not be the way you expect God to help you, but he sends people in your lives to help. You're not weak if you have to go on antidepressant medications. There's a huge stigma. I'm not a huge medication fan, but sometimes you need to do medication just for a little bit. You know, 6, 12 months, and then you come off. I don't want to be on pills for the rest of my life. Who wants to be on pills the rest of your life? Then you got to do the work, guys. You can't just say, I don't want to do pills. Well, when your blood pressure starts going up when you're 45 because you've been drinking 6 sodas a day for the past 20 years, what are you going to do? You can't say, oh, I don't want pills, doctor. Okay, well, there's your stroke. Okay, it's cause and effect. So I look at it a bit more like we're a machine. Like I said before, you put sand in your gas tank for 2 years, your car's not going to run right. You need to look at this, if you can look at it a little bit more objectively. The problem with depression is it's so emotional. There's so many emotions and feelings and people involved that we kind of get lost in it. But if you can kind of take the approach that, you know, there's a chemical thing. We can look at it with the opioids, okay? When you take an opioid, it triggers the dopamine, like I mentioned, and then you get this happy feeling. Same with a cigarette, same with a donut, okay? The problem is if you keep flooding your brain with that, then your body stops making the opioid in the same amount. So now you're depressed if you're not eating the donut, or if you're not doing the Percocet. Okay, you're creating a scenario where now chemically there's a cause and effect. Okay, and like Kawanda said, Dr. Ward said, this is what I tell my patients, because I encourage people to do a lot of things to manage their depression and anxiety healthfully. But if it gets to the point where it's affecting your job, it's affecting your livelihood, and you're super irritable to your kids, and your kids are picking this stuff up. Kids are little sponges. You know, you have to think about when it's really affecting the rest of your life and it's getting out of your control. You can pray all day long, but sometimes you need to really take some action. You need to be, people are passive. They want things to happen to them. You have to make, happiness is a choice. It's not going to come to you. You have to choose to do it. The whole point of treating your mental health it's a quality of life. Now, there are physical manifestations. I have patients that come to see me all the time. They're like, I'm having a heart attack. They're like, I'm coming, Elizabeth. Yeah. They're just having a panic attack.
Yes.
So there are physical manifestations. When you're stressed out and your anxiety's through the roof, cortisol is relieved, your blood pressure goes up, your sugar goes up, your immune system goes down. These are things that are happening without you even knowing. And then you get sick all the time. Okay? So there are things that you can do to address this. The first thing is you need to be healthier. You need to eat better. If you're eating, fat and all that stuff, you're not going to get the best things that you're eating. You're not getting the nutrition. Supplements help. Half of you probably got sleep apnea and don't even know it. That's a huge cause of depression. Who takes a nap? Raise your hand if you take a nap. Napping is not normal. Okay? There could potentially be something wrong.
You never said that.
Okay. So there are things that you need to address. Unfortunately, I don't think that providers are really taking the time. We're under such pressure to turn and burn, especially when you're in family practice. The reimbursement's not there. I mean, Medicare, I could spend an hour with you and Medicare will give me $60. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of providers cut corners and they throw pills at you rather than talking about how you can change this. So we'll get into more of that. I don't mean to, I could go all day.
Christian was talking about patients that end up stroking out. And at that point, I hate to say that it's too late, but there were preventative measures that you could have taken. And those are the community-based services that we talk about. That's your therapy. Back in the day, they used to say, you're going to see a shrink. It's okay to go and see a shrink. It's okay to go and see, to say, I'm going to see Vonda. Back in the day, Vonda was just the singing girl with a shortcut at Southampton High School. But now, in this area, I help those who have mental health concerns. And that's not a bad thing. Come and get your therapy. It's okay to get therapy. It's okay to learn coping mechanisms that are designed for you, that help you get through. And as long as I always say, as long as you're going through, that means that there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's only when you're in that darkness and you're stuck that there's a problem.
Oh, my bad. We getting questions.
All right.
I'm sitting here enjoying y'all expertise, folks asking questions. Like, is he gonna ever ask that question? I apologize. So good questions. This got to be. All right. So we got the test, depression. Okay. So the first question is: so it looks like someone's actually dealing with depression. Okay. So I want to say that first. Then the next one is: I think this, and this is a great question. All of them are. What do opioids mean?
So back in the day, the poppy plant, poppy seeds, you get so if you ever don't pass your drug test, it's not because you ate a poppy muffin that day. Okay, just FYI. Anyways, so the poppy plant has basically a natural substance that triggers that part of the brain. Okay, so if you think about in the 20s, like with the Chinese, they had like the opium dens and things like that. So modern medicine has created chemicals derived from that plant that help with pain. Now, they help with pain, they cause a sense of euphoria. And so some of these drugs that we use, like codeine, hydrocodone, like Vicodin, things like that, are derived from that natural plant to help us through like surgeries and things like that. Back in the day, they were used for women for like menopause and period symptoms. And so you'd get these middle-class women being treated with their hysteria with these types of drugs. And also those coming back from war too were given them for pain and things like that. So as time wore on, there's always been a street drug. It's always been kind of misused in the like 20s and 30s. But there's always been the medical side of it too. So we're talking about essentially our pain pills. So codeine, what was it? Lil Wayne, the scissor. Yeah. So the codeine, cough syrup, Percocet, Vicodin. So we're talking about pain pills, Tramadol. So yeah. So back in the day, it was used differently. Now we use it for pain, and it's overused. So this is interesting. So in the 90s, before I became a PA, the drug companies, this is why there's such a huge lawsuit going on against Johnson & Johnson, they were pushing it. So they would come into the doctor's office and say, hey, this Percocet it's great. Look at it, and it's not addictive. We have all this data that says it's not addictive. And they were trying to create a scenario where doctors, and I mentioned this last time I was here, it's like the 6 vital signs. So like blood pressure is a vital sign, pulse, pain should be a vital sign, so you have to treat that vital sign. Because they were trying to sell drugs. Unfortunately, they are highly addictive. And now we're in this mess, and they're being misused. So that's what we mean by opiates.
Wow.
Typically, it's a prescribed medicine that's controlled. So, can you tell us more about what that means in terms of being controlled, Christian?
Oh, I mean, because so when we prescribe drugs, there are some drugs that are considered safer than others. So it's one of those things where now they're really cracking down. So it's a controlled drug because it's a little bit more dangerous and more addictive. So before, the ER guys and the ear surgeons and the actual surgeons were giving you 120 Percocet. Now Virginia's cracked down. I can't give you more than a 7-day, so it's like 21 pills essentially, which I don't prescribe it that much anyways. But so it's controlled in that the DEA is really monitoring it.
The concern that we have to also be mindful of, while we talk about getting mental health as it relates to our symptoms, so we want you to have a low tolerance when it comes to mental health, but at the same time, the reason that these drugs began to be overprescribed is because people didn't feel like they needed to suffer at all. Like, I don't need to have a headache, I don't need to have a menstrual cramp, I don't need to have a backache. And so if you have a surgery, you have to expect that there is gonna be some level of discomfort. But I think that there has been a misnomer when this drug started to be overly prescribed in the 90s that we shouldn't have any pain at all. So we have to also be realistic about what to expect and what not to expect when it comes to mental health as well as physical health.
So on that note, I always get asked, how soon can you become addicted? Immediately.
Wow.
And you know why? Because it's the behavior. It's the behavior. Like Dr. Ward said, we're so accustomed to where we think that we can't feel pain. So as soon as we feel pain, we want to take something. Just like with my eyelashes. I think I'm pretty, but sometimes I don't feel pretty. So as soon as I get those eyelashes on, honey, Beyonce is in the house. Okay? But think about that. That immediate gratification. As soon as I look in the mirror, as soon as I get in the car and I double check, guess what? That same feeling is right there. So I can't keep putting eyelashes on top of eyelashes, right? So what you have to start doing with the mental health piece is that you have to start modifying your behavior. Because if you cannot modify your behavior and start to adjust your feelings, it's a never-ending cycle. So someone says to me, well, I only took 3 pills and I've only been taking 3 pills a day for 3 days. Okay, you may not be, experiencing any withdrawal symptoms because you're still taking them, but you're definitely on the road to become addicted, because what you're doing is that you're not dealing with the immediate issue or the immediate crisis. You're putting a Band-Aid on a gun wound, is what I'm saying.
Wow.
The other piece I also want to talk about with that is, if you are genetically predisposed, then you are at a greater risk of becoming addicted, more so than someone who's not genetically predisposed. I'm from a rural area. Rural areas typically have issues that are much greater on the side of substance abuse. We typically have greater alcohol use. We typically have greater substance abuse in general. So if my parents or my grandparents or my great-grandparents were using drugs or using alcohol or had that addictive gene and it was carried on to me, it may have taken my grandfather 10 drinks to become addicted, whereas it could take me 2.
Right.
So genetic component also plays a major role in this as well.
Are y'all enjoying this?
Oh, yes.
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 So, do all people suffer with anxiety in some way?
I think so. I think we all have a level of anxiety. I have anxiety. And it depends on
Facts.
how you deal with it. So for a long time, I run, I try to be healthy, try to avoid caffeine, try to do supplements and stuff. But it got to a point where it's like, now I'm snapping at my coworkers. You know, so then I had to really take an introspective look, and like, okay, maybe I need to do a little medication for a while, or I need to go see a counselor. You really have to address it, but definitely.
So my answer to that is God created anxiety for us as a response to anxiety, anger, fear. Those are natural things that God has created in us as a response to, as a coping way to respond to something. So imagine if anxiety is created to allow us for an alarm to go off in our brain to say, wait a minute, I need to take a look at this. I need to slow down. I need to go forward. But sometimes those alarms go off when they don't need to go off. And that's when it becomes an anxiety that we need to be seeking help for. So typically the anxiety will cause us to trigger to have a fight, flight, or freeze response, which is normal. Because if you come upon a snake that's in the street, that anxiety kicks in and says, what am I supposed to do here? Which is a normal response. God gave us anxiety for that reason. But when we see someone in the grocery store, we see a kid walk in the street and pastor's preaching and that's when it becomes a problem. So it's a normal emotional response that God has given us to protect us as a protective factor. When it begins to be used and it's not an issue that we need to be safe from or we need to be worried about, that's when we know we need to seek help.
Wow. That's good stuff.
No, I mean, you're completely right, and that's what I've told my patients too. It's like the fight or flight. If you run away from a bear, the bear goes away, then you go back to your baseline. But like you're saying, you're driving in the car, somebody cuts you off, bam. You know, then you get the blood pressure goes up, all of that goes up, and it's just throughout the day, I mean, it adds up. And then now your immune system's suppressed all day. You don't even know it. And now you're, gaining weight, and it's like this whole, it's a whole cycle.
And to piggyback off of what they're saying, that's what I tell my clients as well, that every emotion that you're feeling is perfectly normal. It's normal to have these emotions. That's the God-given emotions that we've been given. It's all in how in which you handle it. It's okay to be angry. God became angry. It's okay to be angry. It's all in how you express that anger. Just because I'm angry with Pastor doesn't mean I can go over here and hit him in the face.
A couple times.
It's all in how you handle the emotion that you're feeling that makes it abnormal.
All right, they coming in. You also have Port Human Service in Ahoskie, North Carolina, Vidant Behavioral Health on North Side for those persons who may be in North Carolina.
Okay.
So someone wanted to let you know because most of our panel is Virginia. And so North Carolina has Port Human Service in Ahoskie, Vidant Behavioral Health on North Side. And I'm familiar with all those from my tenure in North Carolina. So here's a neat question. And I know the answer, but this question needs to be asked, and I'm sure this is a good question. Is weed an opioid?
No. It's still a drug though, and it's still a response. And so a lot of people who smoke weed regularly actually are masking bipolar.
Wow. Wow, Christian.
Wow.
Say that again.
A lot of people who smoke weed regularly are actually masking bipolar, because bipolar has these highs and lows. You got your mania and then you got your depression. So the weed actually brings down the mania a little bit.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, who had ever heard that? Boy, I'm telling y'all. John. John heard
But you know what? John, I'm proud of you for raising your hand. There you go. Because the more we talk about it, the more it becomes something that we're not desensitized to. The more we
That's right.
minimize the stigma that's related to it. So good for you, John.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the questions I always get asked when individuals call the detox unit, can you be detoxed from weed? No, you cannot. So I just want to throw that out there. Norcocaine.
So how do you deal with it?
So you deal with it by the behavior change. So are you, like Christian said, are you smoking because you're trying to mask, and I don't say hide, but mask, like, the mania, the highs, the lows? Are you smoking because you're depressed? Are you smoking because you have anxiety? Are you smoking because something else is going on? So the way you treat that is that you treat the behavior. With a lot of things with mental health and addiction, it's the behavior. One of the things that Pastor led off with was you can't continue to hang around dead people. So you have to change people, places, and things.
That's right.
Once you start to move those 3 things or whatever, you'll see some things that change, okay? So I can't go up in the eyelash bar every week, right?
Right.
I gotta do something else. I gotta try mascara. It ain't working, but I tried.
So that's, but, okay, so now, let me be clear on a couple things they just shared, y'all. All right, so weed is not an opioid. All right? But I can tell you, weed will prevent you from getting employment.
That's right.
That's right.
Because once you, let me see, what's the right word? Once you urinate in the cup, and they check that thing, if they come back with it up there, I know a company that says you can't even apply for a year, reapply for a year. And this is a job that starts you off with anywhere from $20 to $22 an hour. So, you know, and so here's what's crazy, because I've had some folks even try to put this stuff in and clean them out. They got a test go beneath that. So, no, you did this. This is what month you did. Like, oh, snap. So, reapply in a year. That is a true story.
So what I find unfortunate, especially with weed, and I'm not here to discuss whether it's great or whatever, but the kids are being desensitized to pills and to weed, and it's a norm.
Wow.
You know,
It's a culture. It's a culture.
Wow.
You know, I mean, I had a young lady. She was 19, and she died because she took 2 milligrams of Xanax at a friend's house. Now she had an underlying sleep apnea issue, which we did not identify. I hadn't seen her in a while. But Xanax, they're going in your cabinet and picking it out, or who knows. I had a 20-year-old come in to see me last week. He's on 3 Xanax a day, trazodone at night for sleep, Adderall. So the Adderall hypes him up. The doctor gives him Xanax to bring him down. I'm like, dude, you are being mismanaged.
Right.
And if you want me to be your provider, we're going to have to come up with a plan to get you off of these pills and treat it more effectively. So, unfortunately, I don't think the medical doctors have been, or PAs or just providers have been very well educated on mental health issues, and it's easy to throw a pill because you know not that they're not there for you, but there's pressure. You know, maybe they just don't have the time, or they just don't want to listen. I don't know. Like, oh, here's some Lexapro, deuces. You know, so it's easy to turn to a pill, which is not to say it's not appropriate at times. Don't get me wrong, because I have patients, especially my menopausal ladies, because you chemically are becoming a different person as you go through menopause. And people, the emotional side of it, the sleep side of it, the weight side of it, it's just your body is not, it's completely different, okay? So when they finally break down, like, okay, I'm fine, I'll try an antidepressant, I just can't do this anymore. They're like, I wish I'd done this sooner. That doesn't mean they have to be on it forever, it just kind of helps them through the transition period. You know, it's a tool. God has given us a tool with these medications, with your doctors, but you have to educate. You can't come into the doctor and be like, all right, fix me, doc, and then that passive mentality. You have to have an active mentality. You need to research this stuff yourself as well.
That's right.
So, we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things I'm the owner of Providence Psychological Services here in Franklin. We're in the Franklin Business Center, and we treat from 3 to death. And I also have Providence Psychological Services in Suffolk. One of the things I advocate for is that if you are taking any type of antipsychotic, antidepressant, or psychotropic medication, you need to be coupled with counseling. Because if not, you'll never get off the medication. Just like Christian said, if you're taking medication for high blood pressure, but you don't have a lifestyle change, then there's no goal to ever get off the medication.
That's right.
So we do have doctors or providers in the community that will provide or prescribe antipsychotics or antidepressants or medication for mental health, but they don't always say, and then you need to see a therapist. A lot of times I think they just maybe don't know the resources. They feel like it's easier, they don't have time, but you have to take a hold of your mental health being and say, listen, in addition to the meds, I'm going to learn the coping strategies that I need to incorporate into my life so that I may get off of the prescription.
Now, if we were in church and I was about to get wound up, somebody would shout, "You preaching, doc?" So I just want y'all to know, y'all preaching, doc.
And I will say that the CSB has adopted that as well, being that the CSB is a single point entry into publicly funded mental health those that don't necessarily have insurance or that have Medicaid, we will tell you that if you're not seeing your therapist, we will be slowly transitioning you off of this medication because you have to have therapy as well, because the objective is to change the behavior.
Now, you ready?
I just wanted to just add something, because normally I would start off with the definition of addiction, but I just wanted
That's
to
right.
be clear that addiction is a disease. We don't think of addiction as a disease, but it is very much a chronic disease, okay? Go ahead, Pat.
So here's a good question. I'm sure each of you will appreciate this question. And questions are coming up yin yang. That's good. Thank y'all. Come on, give yourself a good hand. Here's a good question. Another good question. How do you pay for therapy? That is a question of Chile.
Okay, so, insurance, there are many different ways to pay for insurance. We have many different resources. It is a wonderful question. Those of you who have insurance, whether it be from your job or through Medicaid, that would be a way. The CSB also, we talked about what do you guys do? You have the free clinic?
Yes, we have the free clinic. We have a free clinic here in Franklin and Suffolk. Also, when you come in, we meet you where you are. So whatever income that you have, we work out a plan so that you can get the services that you need. We typically don't turn anybody away.
They have a sliding scale fee. I founded Blakey Weaver Counseling Center, which is in Suffolk on 132 A Bank Street.
We cut the ribbon about 2 months ago, maybe a month ago.
Yeah, September 19th. That is a supplement to folks who either are uninsured or underinsured. So at Providence Psychological Services, one of the things that I find is that people have insurance, but they can't afford their copays.
Wow.
They can't afford their out-of-pocket deductibles. They can't afford their medicines. And so you have those people who are working, but if you have to pay $6,000 before your insurance kicks in, folks are less likely to come and get mental health services. So Blakey Weaver Counseling Center in Suffolk, we take folks regardless of their ability to pay.
Wonderful.
We don't ask any questions. If you say you don't have insurance, come on in. And that is for adults. That's
Wow.
for adults.
So that's for adults.
That's for adults, yes. Typically, we don't have children who do not have insurance. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but with the Medicaid expansion, most
Right.
folks under 18 can get insurance. It's the adults. If you have a little bit of income, typically you have less services that are provided. But at Blakey Weaver, we will see you for mental health and substance abuse, regardless of whether or not you're insured.
Good stuff.
There's also like the YWCA, I don't know if you guys have it up here. Oh,
It's in Norfolk.
that's just in Norfolk. Well, there are other nonprofits.
Sure.
But she's definitely a great resource.
Yeah. That works. Yes, ma'am.
So nothing breaks my heart more than when someone calls the detox unit and they don't have insurance. Because my detox unit is, you have to have a paid source, either Medicare, Medicaid, or some type of private insurance, or to be able to pay out of pocket. But every time I turn on the news, there's something about the opioid epidemic. So my thing is, where's the money for this? But I make a guarantee that if you call my unit and you do not have the resources to pay, that whoever answers that phone is gonna find you somewhere to go. Because nothing is more discouraging that, just imagine what it takes to pick up that phone and say, hey, I need help.
Right.
And someone's on the other end of that phone saying, I can't help you because you don't have money.
Right.
So to me, there should be no one in this country that cannot get help for mental health. It's no different than if you are in physical pain, what do? You go to the ER, right? So my thing is, where do you go for this mental health crisis? Western Tidewater has a crisis hotline.
Sure.
And 99% of the time, that's where I'm gonna refer them. So just keep that in mind, that just because you don't have the funds to pay, that should not be a deterrent to not get help or reach out for help.
And that's why we have what I call the emergency room mental health on Wednesdays. Every CSB has it, and because of that very thing, where do you go? Like for physical health, you go to the emergency room. This is why we've adopted the same day access clinic day, because there is a such thing as I'm in a crisis with my mental health and I need somewhere to go right then and right there. So Western Tidewater CSB, even though we have it on Wednesdays in the Franklin location, every day of the week except Friday, we offer same-day access. So on Wednesdays is in Franklin. In the Suffolk location next to OBC, they have it every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And in Smithfield, we have it on Thursday. So from Monday through Thursday, there is a clinic that offers that emergency room mental health clinic.
Wow, that's good stuff. So let me see if I can, cause we don't want to wear your patience. And so we got a few other questions here that we definitely want to get addressed. And so the last one, okay. All right, so questions are, okay, so here we go. So how would you know if your child is on opioids?
I was hoping somebody was gonna ask about children. Good. I'm gonna let you talk about that, and then I wanna talk about children as well, but I don't want you to talk about the symptoms that it's the same symptoms you would see in an adult, but.
I want a Christian to actually talk about it.
Everybody passing the buck. Don't pass it to me, cause I don't know the answer.
Pass it and pass it back.
So I mean, really, if you just start noticing some changes in their behavior, maybe they're more withdrawn, weight changes, appearance changes, just something out of normal and ordinary. It's almost just like little, if you know in your spirit, you're like, something's just not right, you need to investigate it. You really just need to talk to your children about it, because the changes can be very subtle. Maybe some new friends, maybe they're not hanging with the old friends. Check their phone. I mean, I know they're 14 and they got a phone, but it's still your right as a parent to be able to check their phone. You want to be able to give them some privacy, but we need to teach them responsibility. You can't teach them responsibility if you don't give them any, but they need to be checked on. And then suicide still. Kids with the suicide, it's not the kid who's sullen all in the black makeup in the back that's going to necessarily commit suicide. It's going to be the cheerleader who's on 3 different clubs, who's making straight A's. So you really have to be sensitive to this and talk to your kids. Parents don't talk to their kids enough. So you need to have that time. I know we're busy, but we need to talk to them.
That's right.
I was excited to hear that question because what? I was hoping someone would talk about children because what I see in my practice, the unfortunate thing is most of us parents, good parents, feel like my kid would never do that. My kid would never use drugs. My kid would never hang with friends or steal or do things of that nature. But I see kids who are making good grades, who are on several different clubs, that are snorting cocaine, that are buying Adderall from their peers, that are taking their parents' opiates out of the cabinet and selling it or distributing it to their friends. Hey girl, you're not feeling good, you got a chronic back pain or a knee pain, my mom has Percocet, I'll bring you some tomorrow. That's kind of where it starts. And so sometimes we just, like Christian said, be involved. Ask questions. Make time for your kids. I think that we're in a culture where we're so busy, myself included, where we assume that our kids are doing well because they're not having any troubles at school or they're not giving us any problems. That's the most convenient times that our kids are involved in things that we don't want them involved in. It's not obvious. It's not the kids that's being suspended from school. It's the ones that are doing well, the ones that are on the cheerleading squads, the ones that have the access to drive. I have kids that come into the practice that are privileged. The parents have these cottages and they have the freedoms and the responsibilities like adults.
That's where you get all the good weed.
That's right. Those folks are getting it in. They're getting it in. That's where you get all the good weed. That's where you get all the good Vicodin, the good Percocet, the good alcohol. Absolutely. But these kids are very high functioning. These are kids that are making the local news for doing great things. But that's where the drug crisis is nowadays. It's not where the kids who are dropping out or being suspended. It's among the kids that everyone is looking up to, and that's what makes it dangerous.
And with that population, I've had to let them know that it's okay to not be okay. They've had this pressure all of their lives to make great grades, and they had to be at the top of their class, and they had to do all these great things. But it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to cry. I always say, let's reframe that as far as the crying and look at it as a form of cleansing, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're cleansing yourself, and it's okay to not be okay.
That's right.
What I wanted to add, and I was hoping Christian would have talked about this, because we did a segment about 2 weeks ago, and she did a thing called Hidden in Plain Sight. We keep hearing the terminology to say be involved, but I would argue to be invasive. Because with technology and the things that these kids can order to hide stuff, you would be surprised. So I'll go back to being an old school parent. My daughter's here with me now, but she will tell you I will take the door off the hinge.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that's right.
Have done it.
Door off the hinge. We will take
Have
the
done it.
mattress off
Yes.
the bed. We will,
Yes.
I'm military. We will do a strip search up in here from
Yes.
top to bottom. Because you would rather do that now, because research is showing that these kids are getting addicted as early as age 12. So the gateway drug when I was growing up used to be a good old cigarette.
Yep.
But now it's not. So as parents, you have to take some responsibilities too. I'm guilty of this. When you come in my house, where the refrigerator is, it's a sink right there. My pain medications, my blood pressure medications, all that medication is right there. Think about when these kids are coming in your house. They have easy access to these drugs. In your medicine cabinets, I don't know if there's old school medicine cabinets still out there or whatever, but in your sink, in your bathroom, where everybody uses or whatever, you have to be, clear that that stuff can't be there. If you have alcohol in your house and you know that you have teenagers there, it can't be there. You have to have a locked liquor cabinet or whatever. If you got it in there, I'm just being
Right, that's right.
being
That's right.
frank with you all.
Right.
So, as a parent, sometimes with, the millennium, I can't say
Millennial.
There you go. There you go. My daughter's gonna brag me on this. But we wanna be their friends. They have friends. We can be their friends. We can be their friends when they're adults. Right now is your job to parent.
right.
Because if you don't,
Yes.
Good stuff.
because if you don't, they're gonna end up on my detox ward from 3 to 7 days, and I'm gonna be that parent. I'm gonna provide that tough love that they didn't get at home. And sometimes it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I can't tell you how many 18-year-olds, I've had 18-year-olds to 84-year-olds come to the detox unit. But what breaks my heart more is to have that 18-year-old come on my unit, and I'm looking at them, wow, this could be my child. Where was your mom? Where was your dad? Where was the community? So I know when I was in the Navy, I was gone sometimes 6-9 months at a time. So I left my children to the community, to my husband and to the community. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to kick the door down.
Don't encourage it either. A lot of parents are like, oh, we're having a party, just have all the kids here, you can have a little alcohol as long as they stay here, as long as I see them. Oh,
Not at all.
maybe they'll find some weed. It's a brain thing, okay? Their brain is forever changed when they have those opioids, okay? They're never gonna go back to their baseline brain when they were 12 or, so you have to not encourage it. So children who are exposed to drugs and alcohol before the age, your brain's not fully developed about 25, okay? So you have more problems lifelong with addiction and overuse and abuse if you use earlier. The earlier you use it, the more you're setting yourself up for problems down the road.
Wow, thank you guys, that's good stuff. So, I think this is a fairly short answer, and so we mentioned genetically predisposed, and that is, so the question is, what is it? So that's a generational, genetically predisposed.
So what it means is you or someone before you had issues with that same thing.
Right.
So myself, it would be like my mother or my grandmother or my father had issues with high blood pressure, had issues with alcohol, had issues with cigarettes, had issues with obesity. So genetically predisposed meaning you were born perhaps with a genetic characteristic that made you more likely than someone who wasn't to be either addicted or had that same problem.
All right.
And sometimes, I worked with a client that did not understand that if their parent, was an alcoholic or used drugs while they were in the womb,
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's right.
Wow.
you're exposed. The likelihood
Yes.
of you being, an alcoholic or one that used the drug of choice or substance use is likely if you were exposed to it in the womb.
Wow. That's wow. Okay, so
The other thing is we have to be mindful that, we all have addictions, but then we have folks who have addicted type personalities. That also places us at greater risk of being addicted to substances, or being unhealthy mental health wise. Sometimes that could look like overeating. Sometimes it could look like overspending. Sometimes it could look like grandiose. So when we think about addictions, a lot of times we think about drugs and alcohol, but we could be addicted to sex. We could be addicted to video games. We could be addicted to TV. So addiction is not just limited to drugs and alcohol. Addiction is addiction. And anytime those things begin to be problematic in our life, then they need to be addressed.
Behavioral genetics is what I call it.
wow.
It's all the same brain pathway, guys. It doesn't matter if it's a donut or a Valium or an opioid. It's the same thing that goes on.
Wow. Okay, so let's see. This question is there are about 4 or 5 more. This question is, let's see if I have it worded. Basically, this person wants to know if they are treated, does their employer have to be notified?
2016, Congress passed a law, it's the SF 42, Part A. What that means is that when you come to treatment, whether it's, well, this is straight for substance abuse, no, you're protected. You will get a consent form, and that gives you the power to say who your information is going to be released to and who can receive your information. If you were to come to the detox unit, your name's not even put in the system. No one would even know that you are a patient. And if you were to call the detox unit, they would have a special code or something like that to identify you. It'd be like a number, like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So the answer is no, because, I mean, that was a barrier to treatment. Because, I mean, we need our jobs. We need to be able to work. And you would be surprised when I say that I've had individuals from all walks of life, all professions, come through the detox unit to get help. And you know, the stigmatism is still there as far as being an addict. We don't even call it drug abuse anymore. We call it substance use disorder. So that just lets you know that addictions are on the same level as medical treatment. So HIPAA violations, that means that anything privacy, you're protected.
Wow.
It's the same with mental health.
Good stuff.
The other thing people don't realize is that, you know, when you go to have a baby, us women, we could have an FMLA filled out. We could use our FMLA for physical health. You can also use FMLA for mental health. And FMLA typically is broken over 12 weeks, but I even have clients who use, those 12 weeks equate to hours. I don't know what the hours are. Let's say they equate to 12 weeks is equivalent to 1,000 hours. You can use those hours weekly. So it doesn't have, I have clients who use their FMLA that's spread out over a span of 2 years because they don't take 12 weeks at a time, or they don't take their whole 12 weeks at one time. They take it over hours.
Now, FMLA.
It's a Family Leave Medical Act. It's
All right.
what protects your job if you need to get medical treatment.
So how many people knew you could use that for mental health?
Not at all.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can show up to your doctor and be like, I'm having a hard time with my job and insurance. So I've had people do that. That don't count.
But for those who need it, it is available.
Wow, that is okay, y'all. All right, so how could I help my child or toddler if they're showing signs of depression?
Jesus.
I think the first thing you can do is to look at their nutrition. If they're drinking juice all day long, and you're wondering why I say they're hyperactive or high-strung, if you're feeding them junk, they're going to have issues. Do you all know what serotonin is?
Mm-hmm.
Serotonin is a hormone in your brain that helps you deal with emotional issues, okay? Your gut makes 90% of your serotonin,
Wow.
Wow.
right?
90%.
Okay,
Wow.
so if you have if your gut's not right, if your GI tract is not right, and you're not eating well and you're not being nourished, because chicken nuggets aren't nourishment,
No, it's
okay?
not.
You know, frozen pizza is not nourishment. Beans, grains, veggies, things like that are nourishment. That's where we get the nutrients to help our brain, okay? So you need to look at their diet. You also have to consider, too, your antibiotic use, okay? You don't think about this. So antibiotics are there to kill the bad bacteria, but they also kill your good bacteria. And your good bacteria, over time, we have a symbiotic relationship. We have basically as time has gone on, our environment has gotten to the point where it has helped us survive. Okay, all the bacteria that lives inside of us helps our immune system, helps the cancer rates, it helps all these things. So when you take an antibiotic, you've just thrown your gut bacteria off. You have reduced your good gut bacteria, and you may not be making or processing the serotonin like you should. Now you're getting sicker. Now you have asthma. Now you have an autoimmune disorder. Now your thyroid's being attacked. So you have to really limit the amount of antibiotics you use, and I think they're definitely overprescribed. So if a child has had constant ear infections from the time they were born, and they've been given 3-4 antibiotics a year, their gut bacteria is wrecked, and that's a huge brain continuum there. So you have to really consider all of that.
Wow, y'all, this is good. I gotta find a way you got to land the plane, but it's good.
I have another response to that question.
Yes, ma'am, doctor.
Sorry. The other thing is look at our parenting. I think sometimes that we forget, I'm a mother of twins, my twins are 7. I'm 44. I don't always remember what it was like for me to be 7. And so a lot of times we can have unrealistic expectations of our children. We don't want, we bring a child when we're shopping at a mall. That's not where a child wants to be. And then we're expecting them to conform, to be quiet, to be still. That's not realistic. And when they're not doing those things, then we say, you're acting out while you're showing off. Wait till we get home. You're on punishment. It's not realistic. So sometimes we have to change how we parent in order to get a different result from our children.
Yes.
And also how you speak the language of love, too. I don't know if y'all done the 5 love languages.
That's
We
right.
do that as a church thing. This is for real. So like my daughter suffers with anxiety, and I want to be able to fix it for her. I can't fix it for her. I'm not inside of her head. So when she's having like a freak out, I just give her a hug.
That's right.
Because one of her love languages is touch. So you have to really understand where they're coming from and how to show them love.
Do more loving, do more talking and less yelling.
Yes.
Remember, I see parents get irritated because their children are crying in the store. Children cry.
Right.
Children are these would be 2-year-olds. And other parents will pass judgment and say, you need to control that child. You should maybe leave. You shouldn't have them here. But again, we were all children, and that's appropriate for a child.
Exactly.
So just being realistic about what we're expecting. Sometimes we say children are acting out. They're not acting out. They're just acting their age.
That's right.
We're not being realistic about what to expect.
That's right.
Y'all, this is, all right, so we got, I think it's 3 more questions. All right, so this is a yes or no, I think, but you guys are the experts. Is Ambien considered an opioid?
No, it's not, but do not use Ambien. No, it's in the hypnotic class, I guess you could say, but it's also part benzo, and it's very highly addictive. If your doctor's offering you Ambien to sleep, you need a different doctor. Because there are ways of dealing with your sleep that you can get to sleep without Ambien. Okay, now it doesn't mean you don't need a medication. Sometimes I use like trazodone or things that are non-habit forming, but you will get hooked on Ambien.
I'm having a moment. I'm having a moment because every time I think about need meds to go to sleep, I think about Mike. Michael Jackson. All right, I'm back. You gotta understand, I'm a humongous Michael Jackson fan. All right, so here's the other piece. They look at me like, really? All right, so here's the other piece. How do you get past the personal embarrassment, knowing what you need but ashamed to admit it?
It boils down to your readiness to change. Where are you? Are you ready to change? And I think Dr. Ward talked about your support system. Your support system is very, very huge. Your family, those that's closest to you. I do some assessments, and when I get to the question about the support system, people say they don't have anybody. They have no support.
Wow.
None whatsoever. So I think you need to pull in your support system. You can't heal what you don't reveal. So let's start talking about it.
Right.
Let's expose it. You know, in the church realm, you know, the devil wants you to hide things. He wants it to stay in the dark.
Right.
Once you expose it and you ask God to help you with it, then God starts to help you with it.
Right. Amen.
Okay? You do the possible, and then God does the impossible.
All right.
And so it's the same thing with mental health. You have to expose it,
Yeah.
get some help. You have people that are willing to help you. You have your pastor, you know, those people that love you unconditionally. Talk to them.
I want to piggyback off of that because let's be honest, 100 here. Church has not always enveloped this.
That's right.
We have not all, and I say we because I'm a pastor. So we have not always embraced this. If someone had a mental, like what we're talking, like this, and here's what I want you to hear. Somebody in the sanctuary asked this. You follow what I'm saying? And what we've done in many respects as a church, especially of old, this is, I think, in many ways unhealthy too, when we tell people, okay, now, there are some things that go on in our house that need to remain in our house. But there are some things that go on in our house that we need to talk to somebody about what's going on in our house.
That's right.
And sometimes I think people make that very unhealthy. Like if Ashley and Amber, two of my daughters, get to fight, okay, Elder and I should be able to handle that. There's sibling stuff going on, you know, as long. But now, if there's an issue wherein we are unqualified to handle, what we've done many times in church is, especially as pastors. So, Kawana, how many degrees you got in mental health? 5, 4? Got 5. All right. Now ask me how many I got in mental health.
How many do you have now?
So,
You have many years of experience.
yeah.
That's right.
So here's my point. So how, as pastor, I would say, well, we're going to pray and we're going to cast this demon out. What I have just done, I understand that, y'all. I'm a church dude. I get it. But at the end of the day, this lady has 5 degrees in it.
That's right.
So I'm not intimidated by that because that helps you.
That's right.
And I don't get into it because she knows a way to help you that I can't, and I'm not going to feel bad because the Lord didn't tell me. But many times what happens in church as pastors is we say, well, we don't need to send them to Dr. Ward Hall. We can handle this in the house. Oh, no. I've learned. You know, that there are some things that are beyond our realm of expertise.
Yes.
Yes.
And we need to put that in the wheelhouse of someone's expertise and walk beside the situation.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
I'm just saying, y'all, so I know, you know, as pastors, we've got to get better. You know, we ready to get in there and fight demons. Christian done told us a million times a day, it's all in the same brain tract. Go to the same place. You follow what I'm saying? You know, so we've got to have people who can come alongside us to help the saints.
Well, I would venture to say that shame on the person next to you who's going to judge you. I only got one judge.
I love
And I bet they have the same problems you do. And by you saying, you know what, I have this problem, that might speak to them.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's right. That's right.
The important thing that you said is come alongside, because regardless of how many degrees I have, I still need pastor.
Right.
I still need the family. I still need my mother. We still need each other. So I'm not effective, even with all the degrees, without you guys.
Amen.
So when we treat a person, whether it be substance abuse or mental health, we treat them as from a holistic perspective, meaning that we need mental health, we need spirituality, we need
Yes.
substance abuse, we need physical health, we need each other.
Yes.
Because I can help to elevate you mentally, but if you're broken spiritually or broken physically, you're still broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amen.
I openly shared with you all about my eyelashes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had I not said that, no one would have noticed that I don't have
Never.
any eyelashes.
She don't have them on.
But I guarantee you, now when you see me after church, that's the first place you're gonna look. Right?
Oh, wow.
Because for me, that's an uncomfortable thing. So just imagine if you're dealing with a mental health issue like that. But I'm saying this for whoever asked that question. No one's gonna know what you need until you tell them what you need.
That's right.
You know? So when you go to the doctor, think about the whole history that they ask. Anybody, what's your past history? Have you ever had a heart attack? Does anybody in your family have? When you come to see a mental health provider, we do a psychosocial and we go through that same thing. But the thing is that you have to be willing and you have to be open to what you need. And sometimes, you know, what they say, take it to prayer every day.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but remember I said you can have Jesus and a therapist too.
That's right.
All right. So winding down, thank y'all for all these questions, man. Let's see. So here's, I think we have a quick answer for this one, guys. If you choose to take drugs for whatever reason, why is it considered a disease? Dr. Lee all over this one.
You know, that's a great question, but remember when I was talking about the definition of addiction. Addiction is a chronic disease, a medical disease. You would not ask the same people that have high blood pressure and diabetes that same question. You just wouldn't. You just would assume that it came either from lifestyle or that it was hereditary. No one asks to be an addict. When you start off using drugs, remember I said it's normally about the behavior thing. So no one aspires to be an addict. So, you know, that's a barrier to getting treatment too, because we kind of just assume that I want to be an addict. But sometimes your body, the physical changes that your body will put you through, you just can't stop. There's no way to explain it other than my flu analogy is that if you had the flu, you would go seek medical attention.
It's a physical change in your brain. So for example, diabetes. Your pancreas, I'm gonna just simplify diabetes as much as I can, it's kind of complicated, but your pancreas is not making enough insulin to counteract all the sugar that you're putting in your face, okay? So your pancreas starts to shut down because it's being overworked. There is a physical change, okay? There is a physical chemical change in the brain. So when you use opioids, remember the dopamine is released, then your brain, because you keep using it, and it causes this whole pleasure response, and it causes a memory. Your brain remembers how awesome that Vicodin was, okay? And so your brain stops producing as much dopamine, and it's like, wait a minute, remember, we could get that dopamine if we go get that Vicodin, and it becomes a physical urge to the point where you cannot control it. So it's a physical chemical change. That's why it's a disease.
Wow.
You can't control it and it controls you.
That's a problem.
Right.
And the other thing is, I mean, I think there's a lot of controversy around it, but people just don't choose. I think that people seek drugs as a coping way, as a coping mechanism. People just don't say, "Oh, I'm having a great day. Well, let me smoke. Well, let me use drugs." Typically, they are using because one, they want to fit in. Maybe that if they're wanting to fit in, they're feeling insecure. If they're wanting to feel better, maybe they were depressed. If they want to, maybe they have some pain. So they're not using because they're just choosing to use. Typically, people are using because they're trying to achieve something else, and then they end up being addicted.
Wow.
I often say there's a core underlying issue to whatever it is. If we don't debt it at the root, you're going to continue to see the surface behaviors. Incident 1, incident 2, incident 3, incident 4. It can be as simple as arguing in your household between you and your spouse. Today we're arguing about the dishes. Tomorrow we're arguing about what vehicle we chose to drive. The next day is about what we're going to eat. What is the core issue? Do we have a communication problem? Do we have a problem where we just don't respect each other? Let's debt the root, because if not, we're going to continue to be addressing incident 1, incident 2, incident 3, incident 4. Same thing with mental health. What is the core issue? Is it anxiety? What are we masking? Not what we're hiding, but what are we masking? Because if not, you're going to continue to see these surface behaviors.
So, this is a question for Dr. Lee. Are you hiring?
Hey.
It's a real question.
There you go. So one of the things in this area, I don't have enough certified substance abuse counselors or peer recovery specialists. So I'm in the process of growing my own. So if this is something that you are interested in, please see me. I'm going to leave some resource material here for the church. But yes, I am hiring.
Wonderful.
All right.
Okay, so Dr. Ward wants me to talk a little more about the peer recovery. A peer recovery specialist is someone that has lived experiences as either with mental health or with substance abuse. I can sit up here and talk all day about theory and what I've learned from addiction and from just working with people, but I've never been addicted to anything other than eyelashes, right? So a peer recovery specialist is someone that can kind of hold your hand to let you know how do you get started? You know, from the emergency room to even come and meet you somewhere in the community to get you connected to the right resources. So in the substance use disorder world right now, peer recovery specialists are the hottest thing that's going on. I kind of think of them as like a CNA. They're there to do the hard work, getting down and gritty with helping those individuals out with mental health and substance use disorders.
Good stuff.
A peer recovery specialist also to me means redemption, because it's someone who's actually gone through the trenches, has had a substance abuse issue, has had a mental health issue, and has a testimony. They've overcome it. And so they have the lived experiences that would be able to support someone else who's actually in the trenches.
Good stuff. All right, y'all, so 2 more. This question right here, I think, how do you approach someone? I think it's a 2-sided answer, but I'm gonna let you guys answer this. How do you approach someone that you see has a mental issue and they don't?
With love and grace.
All right.
With love and grace. Because if you come using language, you crazy, you almost crazy, everybody crazy.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be receptive. We approach them the same way Jesus approaches us, the same way God approaches us. It's with grace. Really. I mean, I think sometimes, and I say this a lot, we get so many degrees, letters behind our name that we forget how to be loving and graceful. You know, God wants us to be loving and graceful to each other. He wants us to be open and receptive and non-judgmental. That's how we do it, the same way God comes to us. When we have an issue that we bring to the altar, He's not critical, He's not judging. He's receptive, He's loving, He's graceful. We approach those individuals the same way.
And another way to come alongside Kawana here is, especially if it's someone in your house, if it's someone in your house and it's someone that you have influence with, and you really think that they need help, there are ways to get them to help, but you might need to come get the help too.
That's right.
Are you hearing what I'm saying? Meaning that, let's say I use this church as an example, being lead pastor. Let's say, Pastor, me and my wife want to come and sit down with you and just talk about a few things. And so, we sit there and we converse about a couple things, and then you begin to air concerns that you have, and we handle them, where everybody's palatable, and then, you can say, well, Pastor, I think I might need some assistance. Then we can refer you to someone who has that expertise. That is a way you can walk somebody through it with you, but it doesn't look like it's just them. It's we. Like, we need this help, right? And then that person could, love you enough, whatever the case may be, to walk through that journey seemingly with you, even though you're walking the journey because both of you need it. Making sense? Yep, so that's the way that I would, for someone in the building, that asks this question, to have a strong enough relationship. And you say, well, I don't have that kind of relationship with them yet. Well, then you need to have someone who does, that can get that person. And then the flip side of it is, you got to be able to determine if your diagnosis is credible. Because sometimes, and I'm not saying it's not with this question, but I got to answer the other side to this, because sometimes we become the Kawana War halls of life because somebody's not doing what we want.
All right.
And so now they got issues, and we want to frame them in a way so that they can be who we need them to be instead of allowing them to be who they are.
That's right.
You follow me? So it's two sides to that, but those are how I would think you could generally help in both sides. All right, so enough of my diatribe. Let's see. So the last, are meds used that treat ADHD and other autistic symptoms addictive or considered an opioid?
Say that again.
ADHD or other autistic symptoms addictive or considered an opioid? Are those meds?
They're not opioids, but they are addictive. So Adderall is chemically similar to meth.
Wow.
Yes. So when you decide to put your child on ADD meds, you need to really think hard about this. Okay, because you're setting them up for a lifetime of Adderall use, which is fine, and I'm not saying you can't do it and it's not helpful to the child, but you just can't think there's a pill to fix this stuff. So now I've got 20-year-olds coming to me looking for their Vyvanse or their Adderall. They've been on it since they were 10. I'm like, what behavioral things have you tried?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? You can use your ADHD as a gift. Most ER docs are ADHD. Okay, this is not like Kawana was saying. We try to control the kids. They're kids. My son's ADHD, and I'll be honest, he was struggling in school. I put him on. We tried. We were like, we're at our wits' end. Put him on some medication. He would go to bed saying, "Mom, why am I alive?"
Wow.
There are serious side effects to these drugs.
Wow.
I would encourage to be, versus looking outward at what we can do in terms of medication-wise and doctor-wise, look inward. What can you do to change the environment?
Yes.
Sometimes that's easier. When you have a kid who is overstimulated, ADHD, you may want to do things in the environment that understimulate them, that bring that hyperactivity down. And sometimes that could even be just changing how we talk to them.
Yes.
Sit down! Instead of saying that, can you please have a seat?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Those things could be triggers. So sometimes we don't need medication. We rely on medication for a lot of things that maybe we don't. But we have to be willing to make the investment in our children as parents.
Yeah.
It's easier for us to change our environment. It's easier for us to give a pill than it is to change the environment. However, we're making a greater investment in them when we are changing our behavior and changing the environment for our children.
They're mirrors. They're mirrors. If my kids have problems, I gotta look at what I'm doing.
That's right.
What are they picking up from me
Absolutely.
that's causing my daughter to have anxiety?
Yes.
How am I handling the situation or my life situations and modeling? So you really have to take a real introspective look at the environment.
Yes.
Wow, that right there is huge. So transparent moment, and
That's
then we done. So my pop is sitting right there. One day he and mom was at the house, and I don't know what Aaron had done, but my amygdala was doing that. That's part of your brain that when you're upset. And I was spanking my son. So the period done run out there, so they can't put him up for child abuse. So I was spanking my son, and when we said sat down instead of can you please have a seat. So I was spanking my son. He did not interrupt me spanking my son. So this I hope helps somebody. He didn't interrupt me spanking my son, but as soon as I finished spanking him, he said, "I need to see you outside." So he went outside, and here's what he said. He said, "Now, you don't have to spank your son like that." And he used to spank me. And here's what he said. I don't know if you did, but I hope you didn't get that from me. Because if you did, I don't want you to do that.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So in my mind, even though I thought that was the way to deal with it, because it might have been what I seen. But how is it when your credible other comes to you and says, I might have steered you wrong that time?
That's right.
That is therapy that I don't know who else can provide. I don't think since that day I spanked my son since. Now, there have been times I wanted to. Because he triggered something in me that day. Now, Aaron, if you listen to that, just need to make sure that's clear. Don't use this as like Pop won't code. I come out the spirit. And so my point is though, our approach is basically what she was just saying, Saints. So if we learn to approach things better, we can get further faster.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. So the final question is, there are two, I can answer one. How many types of depression are there? Tons. There are a lot of depressions. There are a lot of them. And the other question is, y'all, there are a lot of them. And I think this one comes from it. And this is our final question. Once I learn how to work this. How do you know if you're suffering with depression or anxiety?
I don't think it matters. If you're suffering, then you need help. You shouldn't be suffering. I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot of times we get into diagnosis. Who cares? To be honest, diagnoses are really created for insurance companies so we can bill.
Right.
If a person is having issues with their children, if a person is having issues with anger, I don't care if they're bipolar, if they're schizophrenic, if they're anxious, I'm going to treat the anger the same way. Doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. The diagnosis really was created for insurance companies for them to be able to measure a diagnosis so they can be reimbursed. But when it comes down to treatment, same thing with substance abuse. If a person is using opiates because they have a trauma, or a person is using opiates because they are depressed, we're still going to treat the opiates. We don't treat that substance abuse issue. So it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. What matters is that you have an issue that needs to be addressed.
I knew you were coming.
I have a saying that I say to my family. Today, I'm going to show up for me. Think about all the things that life just brings us. It's hard. I mean, work, family, community involvement, but sometimes you just got to take a moment. You just got to show up for you. So what Dr. Ward said is suffering, you don't have to suffer because someone's already suffered for us, right?
Close, girl.
All right.
She's closing.
Right? So you have to just use the resources and to say, whether you present afterwards, we will all be available. And if you want to discreetly come to me and say, hey, I need help, I'm here for you. I'm here for you to lead you into the right, direction to get that help. But show up for you.
That's right. That's right.
So here's the final question, and the final question is for you guys. Have y'all enjoyed this today?
Yeah.
Wow. Man. Amen. So y'all get an opportunity today to kind of see what I get weekly. So you can see why I really wanted these young ladies to come in and share with our congregation. And y'all, we did this, and I've got to be honest, can I get me with mental health folks here? So it's always a challenge on Sunday morning. Because we as pastors, believe it or not, y'all, we just wired in a way that when something affects Sunday morning, that people feel a particular way. But God told me to do it, and I told him I would be obedient, and I didn't want to flunk the test. And so because on Sunday mornings, people are ready for a sermon, but I would serve you that you've been preached to well today. And then, you know, and so it was interesting because Dr. Lee came with the clothes. Well, she took the word right out of my mouth. I know somebody who suffered already. They hung him high,
All right.
stretched him wide. He hung his head, bled and died. And by that time, we in the conniption. And so again, y'all, these are some fabulous and phenomenal women, and so we're grateful to share with them today.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. So they're really dear to me. They know that. So, but we have something that I want to give each of you, and so this goes to. I don't know anybody like Christian, and so we just connected really well, and so it's nothing for us to tell you. Shut up. I mean, you know, because she looked at me the other day and we said something, she's like, shut up. I'm like, no. And so we just kind of developed that kind of friendship. And but I'm thankful because she works also, she didn't mention it today, but she also works with the STOP organization.
All right.
And the STOP organization are doing some amazing things, and we've got some amazing things that are coming down the pipe. STOP was hidden in plain sight. And so, you know, have a chance to meet her CEO, and she raves about Christian. So Christian is not just a doctor, but she also works with STOP organization. We're working on a couple grants right now, right? And so hopefully that will be able to continue to impact Franklin. And so, you know, Celebration loves you. You know, she's definitely become one of us. And so we're grateful for everything you provide. All right, so this one goes to this goes to Dr. Ward, and Dr. Ward and I are probably on the phone. I don't know how many hours a week, but this young lady right here, I'm telling you, she is. All of them are precious. Trust me. This, and I don't say girl to belittle her. This lady thinks in an arena that is just. And because she did something recently, and Pastor, we need to have you involved in this. I was like, I ain't got to be involved in this. She said, well, don't mean to this. I'm going to write you right in. And so her mind, though, in what she's currently doing, man, is just phenomenal and exceptional. And so she's recently found a new friend in Dr. Shannon as well. And so, you know, ain't no telling what that duo going to do. Because, you know, when you put them two minds together, my God. And so both of them think beyond the universe. And so we're so grateful for all you do. And then Mama came with for the day. Likewise. I met Mama, we were, I think, in Chesapeake when I met you. And so Mama is one of a kind, I'm telling you that. And Kristen, I'm going to say Kristen. Kawana is also one of the partners we have at the mountain.
Okay, all right.
I don't even know how to present this one. I don't sing like I used to. Everybody in the church. I look back at Kristen. She was getting plumb. I looked over at Kawana. She was getting plumb. I said, Lord, they ain't know that girl could sing like that. I done gave them the okie dokie here today. And so, girl, you just, and I'm sitting here, I'm going to tell y'all, because we grew up in the same context, and, you know, I'm a little bit younger than she is. But to sit today, and I want to applaud Mama. I want to applaud Mama. Because that girl was spitting wisdom out today. I was so thankful and impressed to see Vonda Warren, Lily. Today, man, she was up. I'm like, well, Vonda's holding her own up there. Like, Vonda represent. Like, yeah, that comes from the church. Like, Vonda represent up there. Like, she's spitting out fire with wisdom. And so we're so proud of you, girl, and just grateful for all God's doing in your life and what He's getting ready to do in 2020. Yes, sir. All right, and so then I think we know where this one goes. But I'm gonna tell y'all, you know, man, when we get together, it's always a think tank. And I am so appreciative because I'm telling y'all, if you are the smartest person in your circle, you need another circle.
That's right.
When I get in this crowd right here, I already know I ain't smart as one in this circle right here. I already know I'm not smart. So, but I sit in that circle. I sure do that. Sit right in that circle, and they be spitting out wisdom. I be sitting there taking notes just like I'm in school. And but you know, the partnership has been such a blessing to my life. And so Dr. Lee, you know, when she was giving us a tour of her unit, man, she was beaming. You could tell, man, that this is her passion. That this thing that God has reared up in her, and she's leading that thing with integrity. When I walk in, and her right hand, now we know her right hand been here. We know her right hand. You know, when I walked in and she hugged me, I was like, oh yes, God. And they work together so well. And then John, you know, he's also with them, another man that works with them. But I am so impressed. You know, she is passionate about helping people. Like she's always in that mode. Like that must be her default. Because you'll be talking to Dr. Lee and you'll be talking about something. She go immediately to help mode. Like, we can do this. Like, oh snap, this will turn into a therapy session. You know, and so I'm so grateful for the lady who came to Franklin by way of Georgia and her boo.
Organizer, please stand up. Tanya, my wife is back there. They put this together and they decided also to, I can't take credit for this, y'all. They decided to give us to our leader.
Yeah!
I think he's already mentioned earlier, if you missed the symposium a couple of weeks ago, you showed Mr. Great Event, but he decided to bring it here and organize this and put this together. So this is for you, sir.
Thank you. All right, y'all. So come on, can we give them another great big hand? Come on, y'all. Let's give it up for them. Amen. Amen. Shall we stand all over the building? Amen. The photographer says she wants to get a picture before y'all move, so we'll do that in just a moment. We never come into a moment like this and take it for granted. At the end of the day, our text today showed us something that played out in our discussion. If you recall, the Bible says that he was living in a burial cave. So today we were able to identify symptoms. We then talked about strategies that we can employ. We then threw out a support system. And then Dr. Lee helped us. Said, there's one that's suffering. That is the spirituality part of this. So because we are in church and because this is who celebration is, we don't take for granted that there could be someone in our midst who does not know our Savior. I'm telling you, if you're in this building and you don't know Jesus as your personal Savior, we have not come to embarrass you, nor have we come to make you ashamed. I want to thank all of those who are watching us online today. If you don't know Jesus, our prayer is that you will get to know him. I'm telling you right now, he's the best thing that has ever happened to the universe. He still heals, he still sets free, he still loves, he still shows compassion, and he still saves. And you that are watching us today, you heard this panel. They were the voice of Christ today. Perhaps they discuss some issues that are transpiring in your home. I want you to understand that you do not have to walk this walk alone. You can contact us via inbox there, and we will connect you to one of these brilliant women who are able to help you in the situation you're currently dealing with. But at the end of the day, there's a God that still sits high and looks low. He can help you as well. You can turn to Romans chapter 10 and give your life to him right there. Let us know. Let us help you. We'll be glad to. Thank you for tuning in today. Signing off, Celebration Church.